We'll go ahead and get things kicked off today. Thanks so much for joining, everyone. My name is Marley Long, and today we will be addressing best practices for improving SharePoint and Office 365 adoption. And this is part of our webinar series that we're doing leading up to SharePoint Fest in Seattle, which we will be attending next week. So if you'll be there, we'll be happy to meet to show you a bit more of what you can do with analytics for SharePoint and Office 365. So again, if you'll be there at SP Fest next week, we'd be happy to meet. So you can simply email us at info@intlock.com, and we'd be happy to schedule a meeting as well. Just a bit of housekeeping. This webinar is being recorded, so if you want to share this with a colleague in the next few days, we'll go ahead and send an email to everyone who signed up for the webinar with this with the recording as well, and we'll be sending the recording out after the webinar. We can connect with us on Twitter. Our Twitter handle is @Cardiologue. And again, if you have any questions, we'll leave some time towards the end of the webinar and try to answer as many questions as we can. And you can send these questions through the questions box within the GoToWebinar panel. Oops. Okay. In regards for today's agenda, we'll start out with a very short introduction. We'll talk a bit about Intlock and who we are and what we do. Then we'll jump into a presentation with some of the best tips and metrics you can use to monitor your SharePoint and Office 365 adoption and usage. We'll introduce also a bit of our new product, Cardiologue SaaS. And at the end, again, if time permitting, we will be taking a Q&A. So you can send your questions in throughout the course of the presentation, and hopefully we'll be able to get to them towards the end. Brief introduction. So Intlock has been around now for about 11 years, since 2005. We're based out of Boston, and over the last 11 years, we've been focused on web analytics designed for SharePoint and now Office 365. Our flagship solution is Cardiologue Analytics. It's built specifically for internal platforms, including all versions of SharePoint from 2007 to 2016, as well as SharePoint Online and Office 365. We can also track third-party tools like Yammer, Citrion, CRM tools, and the like. And our solution is available for both on-prem and as a SaaS-based solution hosted on Power BI, which I will be showing you both of our offerings throughout the webinar today. Our goal is to constantly help our customers improve SharePoint based on how it's being used. So we talk about three main pillars, and the first one is monitor. So what is tracking the usage within SharePoint. The second is engaging our users, so asking them what their needs are, what their pain points are, and what's specifically not working for them. And then finally, the most important pillar is enhance. So we want to make sure that we're constantly improving SharePoint based on these pillars. And the idea is to have actionable metrics which allow us to constantly make SharePoint better for the users. And just to give you an idea of what our customers have been able to do with analytics, so here's a few examples. So in terms of improving portal ROI, they were able to engage with enterprise users, increasing portal productivity. And by collecting insights from portal users, they were able to further drive collaboration. Analytics can also be used to identify user challenges. So our customers facilitated innovative survey discussions, and based on the insights that they collected from survey discussions, they empowered and improved user innovation. Enhancing portal usability, so they could identify videos viewed for 20 seconds or less and then identified or replaced ineffective video content. Similarly, they identified unviewed announcements or updates, and they were able to inform site owners how to most effectively position content for increased viewing. And finally, increasing corporate productivity, so relating to search, so they were able to identify failed search queries, thus saving employees time by refining failed searches. They were also identified how many users were accessing the portal less than 5 times per week. So in this way, they could easily see which employees were in need of training. Just a very common scenario might resonate with you as well. Some things that we see are stakeholders and administrators from organizations are approaching us and they want to know very specific facts. So, for instance, how can I determine my adoption levels at each step? Can we identify which content is not being accessed? What are most users doing in the portal? What is the most popular search? Where are my users coming from? And what's the most popular content? So based upon these questions, we are then able to recommend very tailored metrics and analytics reports to answer these really important business questions. Because at the end of the day, organizations really need to make informed business decisions based on these sort of actionable metrics. And with these large investments and deployments, it's not just talk or these kind of corporate phrases to say we need to constantly measure. It's actually becoming quite essential, especially with this kind of data overload that's happening in many large organizations. Okay, so with that, we'll go ahead and jump right in. So first of all, why do we need analytics when talking about SharePoint adoption? So the key here is that you can only manage what you can measure. So only can we know what's going on in SharePoint and define if a launch was successful, measure, if adoption is increasing or not, and measuring what's really going on, and that's really the end goal that we help our customers with. So how can we measure the deployment, analyze it, and then help them improve their environments based on what's going on with real data? And again, making an investment in an intranet or a migration, this includes a large amount of resources. So this can include budgets for licenses and consultants, as well as human resources involving multiple teams, administrators, developers, stakeholders, and as well as the migration of key business assets. So by leveraging analytics, you can really find out whether your portal is performing as expected and whether it's truly providing value to your organization. Okay, so at this point, I want to jump into a short demonstration as quickly as possible. So I'll show you a few examples of how we can really track adoption. And I'll start out by saying that I'm going to jump into the user interface that is our on-premises solution. And so this will be the first half of the demonstration, and then I will go on to show the SaaS solution as well. And two things I want to emphasize. So one, the ability to measure what's going on in SharePoint and measure SharePoint and manage the adoption and show that it's improving is of first priority, and just as important, these actionable metrics. So at the end of the day, when you're looking at the data, if the data doesn't let you take action, then essentially this data is really useless. So people really care about how you can leverage SharePoint and measure adoption with the end goal of making SharePoint better for our users. So with that, I'll go ahead and jump into our report center. So this is our report center in Cardiolog Analytics on-prem. So I'll go ahead and show you how to build a report. We'll build a report together, and we'll build this from scratch. You can see this is our dashboard, and I want to A, show you how easy it is, and B, show you how powerful it is that these dashboards can help you manage and track your adoption. So let's go ahead and build a report together. Okay, and we'll be focusing on the visitors section today. You can see we have many different categories with many different reports, but for today's purposes, since we're focusing on SharePoint and Office 365 adoption, we're going to focus on this visitors category. All right. Okay. Okay. So let's go ahead and create a report for inactive users. There we go. Great. So this is one of the easiest metrics to use to take action. So very simple. Who are the folks who rarely or don't use SharePoint at all? So once you know who these users are, you can take action. So you can ask them, why aren't you using the portal? If you don't know how, then, well, that's very easy. We can go ahead and put them in a training session, and in that way we can work to improve our adoption rates. So that's our first metric here. So this is just a full-scale list of our inactive users. I'll go ahead and create another report for you guys. So we'll create a unique users graph. And here we can see a trend over time, and we can also go in to edit and filter by date range. So currently it's on this day. I like to, let's put it on last week. Okay. So obviously, we can see if this chart grows over time, more folks from our organization are leveraging SharePoint, allowing us to show management or whoever we want that over time employees are using and benefiting and gaining value from the portal. So we talked about individual users here in our inactive users chart, but if you have thousands or even 10,000s of users, well, that may be a bit difficult to manage. But we can also monitor groups of users, and with that, maybe we can find out if there are very specific departments in the organization that aren't adopting very well. And then we can pinpoint these groups with more training or more sessions to understand what they really need from SharePoint. So let's go ahead and create an AD user group chart. Here we go. Oh, sorry, it seems I have some leftover reports here. Okay, so this is our AD user groups chart. And here you'll see a list of all the different groups from your organization. And again, very easy to analyze what we call actionable data. And here at the bottom, we can see some of these laggers. So example, we have some groups. Let's go ahead and get a highlighter. So here, marketing and integration and extranet. So they have very low activity and they're not using SharePoint very often. So we can ask, why is that? Why aren't the marketing folks using the portal? And now you know, so okay, let's go ahead and improve that. So we can provide training and simply target these groups. And as opposed to some organizations who give their groups, departments, or regions the same amount of training, that's kind of silly. So, instead, let's spend our resources based upon the insights that we've found through analytics on groups that are really lacking within SharePoint, and let's offer them training. So let's see if this training was really worthwhile. So let's go ahead, clear this. Again, this is really important because at the end of the day, this comes down to spending resources effectively. So I'll show you exactly how you can see if this training was worthwhile. So let's take a unique users chart, for example. Okay, let's go here. Okay, so let's focus again on our marketing folks. We saw that they were laggers in our previous AD user groups chart. So let's go ahead and filter or slice and dice this data. So now I can see the users from this group. Let's see, let's call this marketing. Go ahead and search, add. Okay, so now here we can see only users from the marketing department. And finally, I want to compare data for each user before and after our training to see what's really going on. So obviously, if there's an increase in usage after the training, I can go back and show that the training was really powerful and it was really helping folks. So how do I do that? So let's take a look. So let's go into this advanced section and I will select compare to past period and hit save. Okay, great. So now here I can show you the change rate. So here you can see this is the change rate from the past period to the current period, and these green arrows are really what we're looking for here. So here you can see most of these folks went up, a few stayed the same, and a few went down. But what we're really looking for is these green arrows. So again, step 1 was to find out who was not using SharePoint as often, and step 2 was to provide training and then go back to make sure that the training is helping, and you can see that the boost in adoption for the group that was originally our laggers. Let's go ahead and clear this highlighter again. Okay, so I'd like to show you just one more metric here. So let's go back into our visitor section. So we have a lot of metrics that I can show, but one that I think that's really relevant for increasing and having this kind of broad picture of adoption is this depth of visit metric. You can also look at metrics, some of our newer metrics that we've introduced, such as visitor loyalty, visitor recency, and length of visit. But for now, I'll go ahead and go into this depth of visit metric. So here we have a few metrics that are a great way to indicate as a whole the kind of overall rate of adoption or the health of the portal. So anything from loyalty and depth of visit, which we'll focus on. So here we can see under the depth of visit, so this depth is pretty shallow. So most of our users, from here you can see that the most of the visits were occurring and only viewing one page in SharePoint. Whereas usually when we see folks with higher adoption rates and that have more services within SharePoint, with employees utilizing it more, their depth of visit is much cheaper and they're browsing through more and more pages. So this is just another great indicator to show the health of the current adoption. And for some organizations, the goal is really to have the depth of the visit as more than 5 pages or more, because then you know that people are really spending time in the portal and are getting what they need. However, this can be tailored to the needs of an organization. So if the purpose of the portal is for your users to get in and get out as quickly as possible and obtain the right information, so perhaps your goals for depth of visit may be different. Perhaps having them view 1 or 2 pages may actually be a positive thing for you. I think this is just something that you can determine based on your organizational goals. But the point is that having these insights and knowing the depth of visit can really give you an idea of kind of the current status of your portal and how people are really interacting with it. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and generate this report. Okay. So how can we get this adoption information to the right people? So if this data isn't being accessed by our site owners or by our administrators, we can easily share this data with colleagues by creating a distribution list. So you can distribute to hundreds of different site owners and have Cardiolog send it out automatically to each site owner. So he or she can see the adoption of their specific department or their specific site that they're managing. So here I'll show you in this share button, you can send it to specific people or a specific distribution list here. You can also export to PDF, CSV. And another neat way to share this data is here through a web part. So you can actually have these adoption metrics placed on each page or site showing all of this data in your portal. And of course it's dynamic, so every day when you browse to the page you'll see, okay, who are my top users today, who are the active users today, and who are the top groups, and so forth. All right, so that's just a very quick introduction to some of the metrics that we can provide around SharePoint in our on-premises based solution, and this is with the end goal of really taking action to constantly measure and to constantly improve our adoption rates. And what I'm going to show you now, I'm going to jump into Cardiolog Analytics SaaS, which is positioned on Power BI, so I'll explain a little bit about that to you now. So this is an all-encompassing SaaS solution versus our on-prem solution, which I previously just showed you. So the SaaS solution is provided through the powerful Power BI data visualization interface and is hosted on Microsoft Azure servers. And Power BI is an analytics visualization engine developed by Microsoft, and it really provides a comfortable user interface. So you can really explore your data through a free-form kind of drag and drop canvas, and it offers a broad range of options and report authoring experiences. And the reason that we decided to integrate with Power BI is to make this process as easy as possible so that you can really analyze your portal in an easy and efficient way when using a SaaS analytics solution. So here you can see all the dashboards and the report sections. So in Power BI, there's two main sections that you would work with. So specifically, Cardiolog SaaS comes with a set of pre-made reports and dashboards that we've put together in a way that we think would be the most beneficial for our users. And again, these two sections, sorry, I forgot to mention is this one section called dashboards and this second section called reports. So right now I'm in this reports section, and this is a pre-made report that comes with Cardiolog Analytics SaaS. So at the moment there are over 20 pages in the reports, and we constantly add more. And when we designed the reports, we had a few things in mind. So the main purpose is to provide the data, and we wanted to take that to the next level. So instead of saying, hey, here are your page views and here's your visitors, go out there and make decisions, we also wanted to help our users understand what they can learn from the data that we provide them. And more specifically, we wanted the reports to be built in a way that already helps users know how they should measure their business and portal goals. So for that, having experience of 11 years in measuring SharePoint, this was quite useful. So we spent a lot of time with our customers understanding what they care about and what is defined as portal success by them. And together we came up with these 5 portal goals which we learned organizations using SharePoint care most about. So one, what we're discussing today, SharePoint adoption. So whether or not users are actually using SharePoint. 2, visitor engagement. So once users are actually in the portal, how engaged are they with the content and also with each other? 3, collaboration. So are users making the most out of the SharePoint collaboration capabilities? 4, portal usability. So what's the user experience like and how easy is it for users to use the portal? And 5, optimization of portal resources. So also supporting a migration process, so which allows organizations to save money by learning what they can get rid of or where they can spend their resources effectively. So that's a brief overview of the 5 categories that we created in Cardiolog SaaS. So I also want to mention that one of the great things about Power BI is that if you feel like these categories don't specifically fit the needs of your organization or match your goals, or if you have unique goals, which we haven't covered without these out-of-the-box reports, it's very easy to take any piece of information that we've gathered and create a report any way you like. So a great report is one that tells a story and one that lays down all the pieces of the puzzle to really give you a full picture of what you're trying to see. So all these reports were designed very carefully, and they're all meant to interact with each other and give you these deeper insights about the portal. So what you see here, this is the overview report for visitor adoption. So this is what we're talking about today. And a few things that we can see here. So we have this active users rate chart here. So this chart shows you how many are active out of the total registered SharePoint users and the trend over time. And if you look, okay, so here we can see this April, the lowest result. You can click on that, so I'll go ahead and click on that here, and you can actually see how it interacts with the rest of the widgets on the report. And if you click on that, you can see that only 33% of the users were active, and we can see how many users became active that month. and the new users rate. So these metrics really show you roughly what the usage percentage is and the rate of your user base. But knowing this, this may not be enough. So we need to know what are they really doing once they're in SharePoint. For example, think about a case where 95% of active users, this is an amazing statistic, but what if I told you that they only visit SharePoint once a week? Or perhaps they spend a minute looking at the homepage and leaving. And this is why we have added these kind of additional metrics to this report as well. So one that can be useful is the single page visits rate, which is what I just mentioned of users only visiting the homepage and leaving. So this is this single page visits rate. And we can also see the bounce rate. This is how many visits ended within 1 minute. And we can also see the trend over time to see if anything has changed. So you can see this trend over time here. And again, if you see any kind of disturbance in the pattern or spikes, that can be a red flag that you should look into with additional reports. We also have this chart of average number of visitors per week, this chart here. We can see how much time they spend in an average visit and how many pages they see in an average visit. So combining, all of these kinds of reports together, this really gives you an idea of your user adoption rates. And again, this is just an overview. And to see more information, you'll really need to drill down into these individual reports. So I'll go ahead and drill down into this inactive users report. So again, I showed an inactive users report previously in our on-prem version, so now I'm going to show it here in Cardiolog SaaS. So here we can look at this inactive users report, and this report really shows you the percentage of inactive users, and this is broken up in this case by department, so you can drill down and see exactly who they are. So if you're wondering how this is done, this is actually done by pulling information from SharePoint. So one of the things that we pull is attributes from SharePoint profiles, and you can easily select which attributes you can select in each report, and you can even include your own custom attributes that you may have included in your portal. So for example, here you can see this is your IT group, and you can even drill down by selecting this. You can now see the number of visits by username. So these are all your users specific to your IT group. You can see your number of inactive users is displayed here at the top, your average number of visits per user, your average length of visit, average depth of visit, which is like I showed you previously in the on-prem version. And again, you can click on these individual users, and this is just pure demo data. But for example, so we have Muriel here, and if you have pictures integrated into your SharePoint portal, their photograph will show up here as well. You can see any kind of information that you would like to see will appear here, and specific to this user, you can actually drill down into their specific activity on this activity graph here on the right. And it's really interesting to kind of see how all this information interacts with each other, and I think this is something really unique to Power BI, and this is a feature that we really liked in Power BI, and we hope that our customers will get a lot from these features as well. And again, there's many possibilities for creating reports, for filtering and for slice and dicing and for optimizing and customizing reports in Power BI. But for today, I just wanted to show you these few examples of these user adoption reports. And as you can see here at the bottom, we actually have like I said, I mentioned that we have almost over 20. So here you can see we have a lot of different reports, and if you're interested, we are offering demos, so you can definitely see kind of these reports in action and go way more in depth into these 5 categories that I mentioned to you previously. So if you're interested in a demo of Cardiolog SaaS, we would be more than happy to schedule a session. Okay, so that's about all the time I have for today. So I hope you guys enjoyed this kind of sneak peek of our SaaS solution, and I hope you learned some insights on how to improve your adoption levels in SharePoint and Office 365. And of course, if you're interested, again, we are available for an in-depth presentation of either our on-prem or our SaaS solutions. So if you're interested, you can simply email us at info@intlock.com. You can join our readers at blog.intlock.com. We can tweet us at Cardiolog. And again, if you have any questions at this time, I'd be happy to answer any questions that anyone has. And if not, you can always send in additional questions after the webinar is over as well. All right. And just want to mention that this recording will be sent out, so in case you had to leave or if you'd like to share this with a colleague, this webinar recording will be sent out in the next few days. Looks like we don't have any questions at the moment, but again, if you'd like to send anything to us via email, we'll be happy to answer. And thanks everyone for joining. I hope you have a great day.